Our coach ready to go.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Smack Talk Live. I am Coach along with Lone Wolf. And Lone Wolf, we got some things to cover here that will be quick and brief, and then we're going to get out in the NFL. First of all, let's congratulate the Tampa Bay Lightning. They are the Stanley Cup champions. So the NHL's season is wrapped up, and they're getting ready. And there's already an article about what their next bubble will look like, which is curious because you'd think that you might try to actually have some fans at games and things like that. But sounds like the NHL is going to start in a bubble again. So I guess
I'd be interested to see that. I guess it doesn't hurt to have that as the plan, but maybe that's just it worked. You know that nobody got COVID. You were able to do it successfully. But maybe they think about, okay, we have that, but yeah, maybe we can get some fans in the stands, or we can figure this out. I don't know. I mean, it seems like every other sport, for the most part, seem to have some limited capacity for fans. So
yeah, so we'll see. And the thing with the NHL and the NBA, they're gonna have a quick turnaround here because they're gonna start right back up, around Thanksgiving for their next season. So
right.
it's gonna be quick turnaround for those teams to get ready. So next, let's just quick, we'll bring up the NBA. It's Lakers versus the Heat. The Lakers, I know, won game one.
They did. Yep.
You know,
And honestly, I don't think there's a whole lot to say about the finals.
yeah,
I know that people are breaking it down and they want to go over it, but to us, again, I mean, reiterating what we've said the whole time, this is the Lakers' final to lose. I mean, they're the better team, and really they should win this finals. So there's not a whole lot to say there. I mean, I don't think. I mean, that's how I feel about it. There's a bigger story in the NBA that I'd rather talk about, but yeah, I don't know how you feel about the finals. I'm pretty sure you feel the same way.
well, I feel exactly the same way. You know, I'm not gonna spend too much time on it because we're down to the finals. I think it's going to be very interesting once the finals are done, because I think there's going to be a lot of big time player movement this offseason between the Bucks trying to keep Giannis happy. Basically, it looks like Philadelphia's going to implode their entire roster because they brought in Doc Rivers now. The Clippers are there's a rift there in the locker room. What do the Rockets do? I mean, there's going to be some big time players on the move this offseason. So I'm more interested on what's going to happen after the finals and what the finals are actually going to bring. So,
Me too. Yeah. I just say real quick. I mean, on the Rivers move, that was a very fast turnaround from him being gone from LA and then turning around and then ending up in Philadelphia. How do you think that's going to all play out? I know you had kind of some reservations, when it comes to Doc Rivers. I think he's a pretty good coach, but obviously Philadelphia is going to make some changes in their roster. What are your thoughts about that fit?
I think he's a good coach. I just don't. I just don't know if he has the moxie to be able to handle the off the court dealings in a place like Philadelphia. They're gonna drastically change that roster, and the Philadelphia fans, and it's been like this forever, are not going to tolerate a slow start.
Yeah,
Um, and I just don't know if he has the wherewithal to stand up to that.
right.
Um, so I guess we'll kind of wait and see. But oh, what is? Hey,
Whoops.
you got some music finally. It's
Yeah.
it's how my computer is very finicky sometimes. So
Well, and I think you're right. I mean, I look at it in LA and I think, he had some success there, but you're always the second fiddle and you're always you're never the top headline in LA anyway. So I think that takes some of the onus and the pressure off. They built something there that was successful. Um, but again, it's the problem with the Clippers that we've talked about many, many times. As being that team in LA, you're just a second fiddle team to the Lakers constantly. Unless you come out and win, which they didn't do, then you're that second fiddle. So yeah, Philadelphia is a very unforgiving place from a fan standpoint. They want success and they will be brutal if you do not succeed. So
right.
yeah, I don't know. I think you're going to be prepared if you're a Philadelphia fan to potentially have some maybe a little bit of a down year next year. I don't know. It just depends on what happens with their roster. That's a little
Yeah.
early to say, but yeah.
So moving on to Major League Baseball, we are in the now almost closing out the first round of these playoffs. The Cardinals will lead the Padres tonight in Game 2. They own a 1-0 series lead, so if they win tonight, they advance. The Braves have already advanced. The
Yep.
Athletics have advanced. The Dodgers are up 1-0 on the Brewers, and they just started. And then the Marlins are leading the Cubs. Um, and those are just today's games. I know there's more, but those are just today's. Not going to go through them all because until we get down to you know maybe four teams in each league, it's more or less an extension of the regular season. But basically saying the teams that really stink, you aren't invited the rest of the way. That's basically
Yeah.
what this is.
But
Um,
but as we said, having this playoff format and what you've got here, I think it generates a lot of interest from a fan standpoint because there's so many teams and there's so many storylines and there's something to watch and it's quick and it's exciting um, because these are pretty quick series that you go out and you're playing. So I mean, to me, it generates some interest.
Yeah, and I think hopefully baseball takes a lesson out of this, and you could expand it. Not necessarily like I said to 16 teams, but you could go even six teams and have that first series a 3-game series instead of a 7-game series or a 5-game series, and play them quicker than all right, we're going to play today, then rest for 2 days. Play, it just takes forever. I think the NBA they've really ramped up their playoff schedule, and I think people enjoyed it a lot more
Right.
than sitting there. Your team plays, and then you're not playing for possibly almost a week. It just doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense. But
Yeah, and I'm
um,
hoping they also take that and do something with it because it seems like people say, "Oh, basketball playoffs take forever," and they did take forever. They're just it felt that way, like just sitting there for so long waiting for the next series to start. And I mean, guys need rest. I mean, don't get me wrong, but sometimes even the athletes probably don't want to sit there for a week or 2 weeks until they play another game. So it's kind of ridiculous. So I think this accelerated schedule works out better for them if they can kind of work that way and go forward doing it that way.
right. So moving on, before we get to the NFL, I do want we touch base on college football. College football is really this weekend's going to get in a really full swing. The Big
Yeah.
Ten is going to be starting later this month. So really, this will be an interesting, I guess, if they can complete the season. It's going to be interesting for the playoff selection committee because you're going to have the SEC, the ACC, those leagues don't be done at their normal time, but the Big Ten's not going to get done till after Thanksgiving or around Thanksgiving. So you're going to have a couple extra weeks in there. So
Right.
it's going to be interesting. That could benefit the Big Ten big time when the playoff selection committee actually comes and starts selecting the teams because they're going to remember what the Big Ten just did.
Yeah.
Um, so that's going to be interesting.
And
But
I'll say this, Coach. I mean, it's to me, it's no different than other college sports with selection committees. They always say, "Well, no, we look at the beginning of the year, we look at these matchups, we look at this, we look at that." But they're human beings, and they look
they
at what the
don't.
team did last.
Yeah, they
And you're
don't.
right. I mean,
I mean, I mean, it's just the way it is. They don't.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
it's so. Um, Not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, blah. No, they don't. It's
right,
what have you done lately, and that's what they
right,
look at. Unless you're an upstart team and had a huge win at the beginning of the season, maybe then they'll look at that.
right.
But other than that, it's what you do
Yeah,
at the
it
end
just
of
feels like it's
the year.
weighted more based on what you did later. And I mean, that's just human nature. So yeah, that could benefit the Big Ten in playing later games because that'll stick in the committee's mind when you see Wisconsin beat Michigan or Ohio State beat Iowa or whatever the case may be. So
Right. But before we get to the NFL, I want to get your take. We have Mississippi State upsetting LSU last weekend. Are you buying Mike Leach and Mississippi State as a legit football contender, or did they just get lucky?
they just got lucky. They're not a legit football contender. I'm gonna be straight up, man. Okay, I mean, in college football, week in and week out, um, less so than in the NFL, but there are teams that can get there, play well, and have success. And you see that with sometimes these, I'll call them sub level. I won't even call them whatever the actual title is. I'll call them sub level teams that will come in and that will beat one of the playoff eligible schools in the first week. And you schedule the cream puff and you think you're going to come in and you're going to take care of business, and then you end up losing to that team. Um, so it's definitely possible. And no, I'm not buying it. I don't think that they are a top four make the playoff kind of team. And I know that people have been talking about that kind of stuff, but it's not that's not the case.
All righty. So,
I'm telling it like it is, man. And I could be
and,
proven
and
wrong, and I'll admit it, but I'm just saying.
I just wanted to get your reaction to that and see what you thought. I
Yeah.
also am not buying Mississippi State. Everybody has that one game every now and then, and I think that
Right.
was it. Not really high on Mike Leach as a coach. He's bounced around college football for the last about 20 years, and
Right.
I
And
have
that's one of
always
the big reasons I'm in the same boat. Yep.
always has seemed to fizzle out wherever he's been. So, all right, on to what everybody wants to talk about, and that is the NFL. We are currently, right now, started week 4, the Denver Broncos and the New York Jets. I can't believe we're even doing a show. We should be
We should be
watching this
banned from
game
the
so
airwaves to watch this
intensely.
game. Yeah.
But we are in the third quarter, beginning of the third quarter. The Broncos are up 17-13. And I'll tell you this, I just read an article before the show. Adam Gase is not playing for his job tonight or coaching for his job tonight. I'm calling BS on that, Mr. Gase. You know you're on the hot seat. You know if you don't win a game pretty soon, you're gone.
As you
Uh,
should be.
as you should be. You should a win shouldn't even take him off of
No,
the hot seat.
no, not
Uh,
at all. No.
we've chronicled Mr. or not even Mr. Adam Gase
Yeah.
multiple weeks here. He should not be on the NFL sideline anymore.
No. No. And I will say, I did see, and I don't know if you saw this or not, but I got a chuckle out of Damian Woody's rant about both New York football teams and how horrible they were.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he just went off on both of them. And to be fair, and we'll get into each one of the teams, and then obviously look ahead to next week. But I think I'm not going to give the Giants a pass per se, but this is a totally different situation. It's a new head coach, new system, young quarterback, and they're just starting out this year. Yeah, they're bad, but the Jets I give zero pass because this is an established coach in this system. They have had no success, and it's only gone from bad to worse. So,
Well,
but anyway, yeah,
yeah, and I'll just say this with both those teams, I give neither of them pass. Both ownerships and front offices are inept. You hire a guy in Adam
yeah,
Gates who you knew had issues, who you knew who wasn't a high quality coach, but you weren't patient enough to do your due diligence and hire the right person.
yeah,
And with the Giants, you go and hire a guy that has no head coaching experience. He is a
right.
wide receivers coach of the worst wide receiving core in the NFL. And just because he was attached to Bill Belichick, you hire him
You give him
because
the
you
job,
think
yeah,
he's going to lead you to the promised land. I'm sorry. Neither of those franchises get a pass from me. They're
yeah.
going to be brutal for the next 10 years. They're just going to be bad. There's gonna be bad, and I'm telling you right now, if I'm Saquon Barkley for the Giants, I'm out for the season. I am busting my butt rehabbing. I'm telling my agent, you tell
Getting out
them
of town, yeah,
you trade me because I'm not coming back.
yeah.
You hurt me twice now in my career. He was hurt as a rookie, missed a
Right.
couple of games. Now he has a season-ending injury.
Well,
That's
and
not
their
because
offensive
of
line is putrid. I mean,
right,
you see what their team looks like, and I know we're kind of delving into this. We might as well just go at it. The Giants without Barkley have absolutely nothing in terms of being dynamic. They're
right,
just a terrible offense, and part of that is the personnel that they have on the field. But I'm going to call them out. It's not like Jason Garrett wows anybody as a head coach, and I don't think he's really wowing anybody right now as an offensive coordinator. So the marriage between him and Daniel Jones doesn't seem to be working, with Daniel Jones continuing his turnover problems.
right. So those are our thoughts on the professional. I guess we have to
You could
call them
use that term,
professional
yeah.
football teams in New York. Sorry, New York, your teams stink and are going to for a while. So we're going to quickly run through and recap week 3 before we get into week 4 of the NFL. We talked about this briefly at the last show. The Dolphins clobbered the Jaguars on Thursday Night Football. No
Yep,
big shocks there. We have the Bears beating the Falcons to move to 3-0.
yep,
Um, that was a shock. We both picked the Falcons in that.
right.
We both said the Bears were the worst 2-0 team in the league. Well, the Bears are now the worst 3-0 team in the league. You,
But they're
you
3-0,
You
I
barely
mean,
beat the Lions. You barely beat the Giants. You barely beat the Falcons. Guess how many wins that the Bears' opponents have combined?
yeah, one.
Is it one? Do the
Detroit
Giants?
Detroit beat
Oh,
Arizona,
that's
so
right. Detroit won
yeah,
last
yeah.
week. Forgot
So
about that.
they're a combined 1-8.
So, now everybody's talking that Nick Foles now is the answer. Blah 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 blah. Whatever, Chicago. You're not very good. You lost Tyreek Cohen for the year. You're in trouble. So,
I just don't think they were that good to begin with. They're probably looking at themselves right now thinking we're 3-0 and Nick Foles seems to have come in and be the answer and et cetera, like you said. I look at this team and I think, Nick Foles has been that kind of journeyman. He's had some success coming in before, but outside of Philadelphia, he hasn't had much success from a sustained standpoint.
Yeah,
So
I was just
one quarter against a team that has chronically crumbled in the fourth quarter, as Atlanta has, does not prove anything to me yet.
well, and that's the thing. I was just gonna say that Nick Foles has not lasted more than a handful of games as a starter where he's been very good. And you hit it on the head. The Falcons now have crumbled in 2 straight weeks.
And horribly too, like just
Yeah.
atrociously. Yeah,
So there's going to be a coaching change, I believe, in Atlanta. It's just a matter of when, not if.
yeah.
Um,
And I know this is maybe forecasting a little bit, but I feel like the freight train of the Packers offense is going to just destroy Atlanta. And
yeah,
who knows, maybe that'll be enough to push it over the edge for Dan Quinn to lose his job.
and we'll
We'll get
get
to
to
that. We'll
that
get to that. Yeah.
in week 4. So
So next is the Rams and the Bills.
the Rams and the Bills. I It was a good game. I
Yeah.
picked the Rams, you picked the Bills, but I'm not shocked that the Bills won. But it just proves the Rams are a legit team.
Right.
Um, Even though that they lost, I before the season I would have thought that would have been a blowout. So
Right. And I thought they'd be bad too. They acquitted themselves well, but I'd like to talk just briefly. I'm impressed by Buffalo. They've been able to answer the critics. I think they look like they're a legit team. They're 3-0, and it seems like they may. I mean, obviously the test is you have to go out, you have to beat the Patriots, you have to do that to show you are really there. But so far they've answered all the calls. They're there right now.
right. Washington, Cleveland. Oh, geez, there had to be a winner here. The Browns took care of Washington. Now everybody's saying, "Look at the Browns." Blah blah blah. You beat Washington. Not much to say there.
No, not really.
The Titans over the Vikings, 31-30. Um, this just tells you how bad Minnesota's defense is. They're bad,
Right.
and there's not relief coming. And unfortunately, and I like Mike Zimmer as a coach, I think if the Vikings can't recover and be 8-8, 9-7, and at least be knocking on the playoff door, Mike Zimmer will be fired and he'll land somewhere else and do a great job. But
Right.
Minnesota is known for making irrational, stupid decisions with their coaches and their personnel. So I would expect nothing less than them firing a coach that has given them a nice run of success, even if they have a down year. Because so
Yeah, I feel like they'll overreact and get rid of him, which to me, I was upset from a fan standpoint when they hired Mike Zimmer because I thought, well, he's a good coach,
right,
and
right,
yeah, I mean, thus far he's done a pretty good job. This year obviously it's been there's been a lot, but their defense is not any good, and offensively, Dalvin Cook. Um, the rookie wide receiver Justin Jefferson. I mean, they looked good. They looked
hmm
like they were on track. But we mentioned this before. The Titans just find a way to win, and they did the same thing against Minnesota, whose defense just could not stand up when they needed to.
right. Moving on to the Raiders, Patriots. I picked the Raiders. I had confidence in the Raiders, but they just got outclassed by the Patriots. Bill Belichick has the Patriots at 2-1.
Yeah,
You got to start buying them a little bit, but I'm not going to buy in until they beat the Bills or the Ravens or the Chiefs or a top tier team.
Right.
The Raiders are a good team, but they're not a top tier team. Um, and I've been saying that they're a quarterback away there. But
Yeah,
we'll
and Belichick, to me, I think he did what he always does. He came up with a game plan to attack that team specifically. They had a bevy of different running backs, and it just worked. So he's still Belichick. He's still a great coach. But yeah, I don't know yet. I mean, I want to see if this team can stack up against a truly good team in the NFL.
right. Next, we have 49ers over the Giants, 36-9. I mean, everybody's saying, oh, look, they didn't even need their starters. You played the Giants.
We both picked this one wrong.
We did. And I'll say it,
But I mean, you just look at it and you think, okay, maybe the Giants have something pride. I don't know, but
no, they don't.
they're just bad.
This tells me that Judge has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah, it
No
really does
idea what
show
he's
that.
doing.
Yeah, because you're playing
Um,
backups. I mean, almost all backups.
yeah, you're playing a team of NFL backups and couldn't even be close. You got
It
shellacked.
wasn't it wasn't even competitive, not even
Right.
remotely competitive.
So that's not good news for the Giants moving
No.
forward. Next, you have the Bengals Eagles who tie at 23-23. All I got to say is I don't care what the Bengals did. How bad is the NFC East? Oh, you have a
It's
first place
atrocious.
tie between Washington and Dallas, and they're 1-2.
Yeah.
That's just bad. Just bad. That's all I'm
The
going to say
whole
about
division
that.
is just
Yeah.
putrid.
That's all I'm going to
Um,
say about that. I don't have anything else to comment.
no. Nope.
Oh,
And well, we'll move on. Houston and Pittsburgh. Um, for me, I look at this and I think we both called it and we expected it. Houston, they played a lot better in this game, but they're still not good enough to be able to beat a team like the Steelers, who seem to be getting better each week as they go along. And Houston did have a brutal schedule to start, but some of these games last year they might have been winning. This year, not so much, and they still can't seem to run the football because they don't have a running back. Sorry, you traded for one, but it's not working out for you.
yeah. And I read an article and watched some highlights on this, and the commentators even said, just imagine if they had Deshaun Watson. Or not Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins,
You
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
They do have Deshaun Watson. I'm like, they do
yeah.
have him. I'm pretty sure.
So,
Yeah,
you have Hopkins, and, they were kind of bashing the Texans for trading him, which they should because they don't have a dynamic playmaker on offense right now.
no, no, and like I said,
Um,
the offense played better, but they still lost. So,
Jets, Colts crush the Jets. Move on.
yep,
Um, Panthers beat the Chargers. Now, I can't remember if we picked this one or if we were picked the Chargers on this one. But Carolina comes away with the victory. Herbert, played well
yeah,
for the Chargers, and you'd think the Chargers would be able to come up with the win because they were out without McCaffrey, but
right,
Panthers found a way to win 21-16, so good for them.
yep. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of things that the Chargers just need to figure out from a team perspective. We talked about whether they would be any good. They're not horrible, but they're not great, and you're seeing that play out. I mean, you put the rookie in; he's played well. I mean, he's played well in both games against the Chiefs and now against a younger defense in Carolina. But yeah, good for Carolina to get their first win for the season. So
All right. Buccaneers over the Broncos 28-10. Not a big surprise. You're playing a quarterback that will probably never play in the league again. Lions over the Cardinals. This was probably the biggest upset of the day. I thought this was going to be a shellacking, but
Yeah.
somehow Matt Patricia pulled something out of his rear end and was able to get the Lions to a victory. Um, I think it was more of the Cardinals didn't play as well as they had the first 2 weeks. Then the Lions also been playing a lot better.
Right.
Um, I still think,
The Cardinals made a lot of mistakes, and Murray turned the ball over a lot in that
yeah,
game.
and I think Patricia's still on the hot seat, still going to be fired. So,
I
um,
agree. I mean, I don't think this is enough to save his job, and if they're going to lose several more games coming up here, so it's
yeah.
not enough.
Seahawks over the Cowboys in a high-scoring game. Again, I'm not questioning the Cowboys' offense. They have the talent. You expect them to score a ton of points.
Right.
How bad is their defense? Their
Yeah.
defense is just getting scorched by everybody they play. Um, but that's kind of Mike McCarthy's MO when he was in Green Bay. They had stellar offenses all the time, but their defense was just brutal, except for the 1 year that they won the Super Bowl.
Right. And
Um,
and I think, to me, right, then the following year they went on an offensive tear and their defense wasn't that great, but it didn't matter until the end of the season when they needed it. And, you know, McCarthy kind of has that, right? He held on to Dom Capers too long as a coordinator. He wasn't changed. Now you're here in Dallas and you have some defensive woes to start it off in this season. Yeah, their defense is terrible. And now the other flip side of that though is Seattle's been giving up a lot of points on defense, um, over the course of the year as well.
yeah, I mean, but I think their Seattle defense can come up with a stop when they need it.
Sure.
The Cowboys can't.
Yeah,
Um,
and I will say this: no one in the league right now is stopping Russell Wilson.
no.
He's just a machine. You knew in that game as soon as he got the ball back, he was going to score, and he did. I mean, it was just he's having a career year right now.
Yep.
Um, there's
If,
really no one that I mean, there's no one lining up against him right now.
if if he continues to play the way he is, I'll be shocked if he doesn't win the MVP.
Yeah.
Um, Moving on, Chiefs, Ravens. Chiefs 34, Ravens 20. And to be honest, I did watch parts of this game. Um, it wasn't even as close as a score.
No, it was not.
The Chiefs are far more superior team than the Ravens. Um, Again, I told you, everybody's talking about how great Lamar Jackson is. And yes, he's a good quarterback. You now have a full season on film. Good
Right.
coordinators are going to find a way to slow him down. Um,
And the Chiefs did. I mean, he did not accumulate a lot of offense in this game at all. At all.
so,
So,
that's the Ravens are going to have to figure that out moving forward. Otherwise, they may not even win that division because the Steelers are playing good football.
right.
And of course, the final game, the Packers over the Saints, 37-30. Kind of expected that. And everybody's kind of like, oh, look at the Packers defense. You're playing the Drew Brees and the Saints offense. You're
Right.
going to give up points. That's not as shocking to me as if the Packers were playing like the Bears. It was
Right.
37-30. Um, again, Green Bay was out. Devontae Adams was out. Kenny Clark on defense.
Yeah.
Just saw
And
it
then and
today.
then Kirksey goes out as well during the
Yep.
game. So
Kirksey goes out. It was just reported. I just read that Lazard is out this week as we head into week 4. But the Packers 3-0. I just read an article about all the 3-0 teams in the league, ranking them from worst to the best. Obviously, the Bears, they rank
Right.
everybody's ranking them the worst 3-0 team. They're ranking the
Yep.
Chiefs the best, which I get. And they have the Packers at number two. And I kind of agree. I think right
Yep.
now, if the Packers played the Chiefs at a neutral field, it would be a really good game. I don't know if the Packers could win, but I think it would be like a 40 some to 30 some game. You're going to have almost 100 points scored in that game.
Right.
Um, so
I
that
think that kind of game to me would come down to one or two mistakes that somebody makes or we're forced to make, and that would be about it because it would just be an offensive showdown between two guys who are playing at a high level right
right,
now. And I agree. I mean, I'd probably say that maybe Seattle would be the next team there, but yeah, you can't bet against the Chiefs until somebody dethrones them, basically.
right, exactly. So that wraps up week three. Moving on to week four, we already talked about the Broncos Jets here. I think the Broncos will hold on to win this game. I don't really have any faith in the Jets being able to pull that off. Um,
Or any game off.
yeah,
I mean, really.
The Jets may go 0-16 unless you get rid of Adam Gase and get somebody in there that knows what they're doing. Um, so moving on to the Sunday games, we're gonna go a little bit quicker this week and only hit on a couple of key games. So first off, Colts Bears. I'm gonna say it. Colts don't even upset the Bears. The Colts beat the Bears, and the Bears are no longer undefeated. Um, do you agree, disagree, Lone Wolf?
I agree. The Colts beat the Bears, and the Bears come back down to earth, and people get a little bit more realistic about it.
All right. Then we got the Browns versus the Cowboys. Interesting game here. Um, I'm not a big fan of either team or either roster per se, but because of their offensive firepower, I'm going to give the edge to the Cowboys. The Cowboys even up the record at 2-2 versus the Browns. The Browns fall back down to 2-2 as we see mediocrity run through the league.
I agree. I think this is going to be kind of a high scoring game. I think the Cowboys defense is going to get run all over by Nick Chubb, and the Browns defense, they're going to get carved up by Dak. So it's going to be a high scoring game, but I think Dallas wins in the end.
All right. And a game I missed, probably because it's going to be a snoozer. The Jaguars at the Bengals. Oh, you should almost be thankful they probably aren't having fans at this game. Um, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say Joe Burrow gets his first NFL victory. The Bengals beat the Jaguars in a coin toss.
That's good. That's good. I was inclined to go with the Bengals, but I think Minshew Mania returns and the Jaguars play better and they defeat the Bengals, leaving Joe Burrow still wondering if he'll win a game in the NFL, which he
All
will
right.
eventually. But
All right. Saints at the Lions. Saints bounce back and just manhandle the Lions.
agree 100%. It's not even going to be close.
We have the Seahawks at the Dolphins. Sorry to say, Lone Wolf, the Seahawks plaster the Dolphins and turn them into chum for some fishing bait. Um, because the Seahawks offense is that good.
I think that I still think the Dolphins will score quite a bit. I just feel like the Seahawks defense has been giving it up a little bit, but I agree because until Russell Wilson doesn't do this, he's going to destroy Miami's defense. He's destroyed every defense he's faced so far. He just keeps putting up points, keep throwing touchdowns. He's basically unstoppable right now. So the Seahawks win this game.
Chargers at the Buccaneers. Sorry to say, but the Buccaneers are going to move to 3-1 behind Tom Brady. Chargers, nice young roster, don't have enough to beat the Buccaneers right now.
Right. I think this is the young man sees what the veteran can do. He's playing well, but the Buccaneers seem to be getting more confident every week with their offense, and they win against the Chargers at home.
All right. Ravens at Washington. Ravens win. I mean, their line is minus 14, and they're going on the road. Um,
Yeah, it's pretty
if this
safe.
is a game, I'll be shocked.
I would be absolutely surprised. The Ravens, Lamar Jackson will have a field day. He'll see what it's like to play against a defense that's not nearly as good at, or schematically as good as Kansas City's, and he'll have a field day and they'll win easily.
Arizona at Carolina could be an intriguing matchup after what Carolina did last week. But Arizona coming off a poor performance, losing to the Lions, I think they bounce back, win a close one versus the Panthers. But they'll move to 3-1. Panthers will fall to 1-3.
I think, I think that's. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to take the Panthers. I think that maybe something happened with Arizona that, you know, they're playing well, but I think they're going to hit a funk. I don't know if DeAndre Hopkins was injured and if he was going to play in this game or not. I'd have to look at the injury report again. I saw that he was injured, but if he doesn't play, I would favor the Panthers to actually win this one in a close one. Um, I don't know. I just got a gut feeling about it. I kind of feel like maybe Arizona's going to hit a funk, especially if Hopkins doesn't play.
All right. Vikings at the Texans. Well, somebody will probably
Somebody
come
has
away
to
with
win,
the
right?
victory. Well, not right. They could tie,
They could. We've seen that already, and that's just an embarrassment. So,
but I believe the Vikings offense is good enough to win this game. The Texans, I think, are just completely lost on both sides of the ball.
yeah,
Um, the Vikings come away with a victory, taking it 1 week at a time, trying to get back into the playoff race because I think they understand that probably winning the division is probably not going to happen. And they move to 1-3. Texans drop to 0-4 and put Bill O'Brien squarely on the hot seat, moving into week 5.
yeah, I agree. I think that Minnesota was able to figure some things out offensively, which is what they needed to do in week 3. And week 4 won't be any different because the Texans won't put up enough resistance to what they want to accomplish, and they'll win. It might be a close one, but they'll win the game.
All right. Giants at the Rams.
Rams.
Rams. There's no more to say. We're going to skip over the Patriots, Chiefs, and the Raiders and Bills because those are our highlight games.
Yeah.
Eagles at 49ers, even with all the injuries, I'd love to see the 49ers lose, but I have zero confidence in Philadelphia right now to win a
Right.
football game. You tied
Yeah.
the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the 49ers. But, if Garoppolo doesn't play and some of these other starters don't play, if Philadelphia pulls off the upset, I won't be shocked. But as of right now, I have zero confidence in that.
I just don't have confidence in the way that they're playing right now. I mean, we both thought Philadelphia would be better than they are, and so I think they're capable of that, but we haven't seen it yet. And part of that is Wentz, and he's not playing great. I feel like, yes, I agree with you. They could win this game, but I think San Francisco is a better team and more well coached at the moment, and will win this game.
All right. Steelers Titans postponed because of a COVID outbreak with the Titans. Um, so it was originally postponed, was going to be played either Monday or Tuesday next week, but now it's been postponed indefinitely to be played at a later date. Um, Obviously, the game's going to have to be played. Both teams are sitting at 3-0. This is going to have playoff implications. The game's going to have to be played at some point. Um, we just don't know when. So, sorry, everybody. Don't have much to say about that one.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just how it is. Yep.
And finally, we have the Falcons at the Packers on Monday Night Football. Um, I think Atlanta can score points
Right.
because they've shown they can score points. If Kirksey's out, if Clark isn't back, I think the Falcons can score points, but I don't think their defense can slow down Aaron Rodgers because he's proving it doesn't matter who he has out there at receiver. He's basically saying to Goodison that, giving him the big middle finger and being like, hey, just imagine what I could do if you actually gave me a guy like Calvin Ridley or Julio Jones. So,
Right.
um, but I think Green Bay moves to 4-0 and starts to really take control of the NFC North.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, there's nothing about Atlanta's defense that inspires anything whatsoever. They've had just these epic collapses, and maybe even more so just special teams. Maybe even all the way around. I mean, even offensively in the Bears game, they fell apart at a certain point too. So as a team on the whole, they've just been yes, they can score points, no problem, and they will against the Packers. They'll probably even put up 30 points, but
Probably,
they'll
yes.
get they'll probably get scored on to the tune of 42 to 45 points, so it really won't matter.
Right. All right. Moving on to our two highlight games. So we are going to go more in depth with these two games. Let's start with the Bills and the Raiders because I don't know if that has as much intrigue as the
Right.
Patriots and Chiefs. But it is an intriguing game because you have the Raiders, who are an ascending team, really kind of like where the Bills were 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, and 2 years ago, the Bills scored some upsets against better teams because people didn't give them a shot. Now, Josh Jacobs did not play well last week for the Raiders. Obviously, I've talked ad nausea, about the need for the Raiders to get a quarterback that is a threat to throw a touchdown almost every play, which would open it up more for Josh Jacobs. You have
Right.
Waller, who did not play well last week. And then on the flip side, you have the Bills, who are just playing very, very sound football in all facets. Um, again, I'd love to sit here and say the Raiders are going to win because they're my second, team. But the way the Bills are playing, um, I'm giving the edge to the Bills. It is in Las Vegas. The Bills have to go across country, so I think it'll be a closer game than people anticipate. But I think the Bills will come out with a victory. Um, and move to 4-0, keeping the pressure on the Patriots because they are already a game behind the Bills.
Yeah, I think I think you're right. I mean, Las Vegas is not quite there yet. Like they put some nice things together. Last year they had some sparks, and they were they had some good wins, they had some bad losses. this year, I anticipate that they're going to contend for a playoff spot. Um, but I think the Bills are more dialed in, and they are farther along in that plan of where they need to be. And their quarterback is playing at a high level, um, whereas Carr is just not. He's not quite there. You're right. It never really has been throughout his career. He's a guy that you can utilize because he's not bad. But if you want to be a truly elite team, then you need to have a truly elite quarterback, and he's not that. So I agree. I think the Bills will go out there and eke out a win. And it's proven, and they've proven that they can do that. So I have feeling that they'll be doing that in this particular case as well.
Yeah, and Buffalo is -3. And whenever you have a road team in the minus, um, it's usually not good for the home team.
Yeah.
'Cause that says everybody feels that the away team has an advantage, even at your home stadium. I mean, you still the Bills still have Stephon Diggs, who his receptions aren't you know gaudy. It's 20 receptions, but he has 288 yards and 2 touchdowns. Um, and what he does is for the Bills, he gives them that deep ball home run threat, so it opens up all the other guys underneath for Josh Allen to hit, and that's the
Right.
problem. If you try to take away that short stuff, they're just going to throw it up to Diggs, and Diggs more
More
than
often
likely
than
is going
not
to come
wins that
down with it.
battle. Hmm. Yeah, and
So
that's been a big difference for them. And that's another thing that, I mean, we talked about Minnesota a little bit, but offensively they had a lot of problems because there was no Diggs, and Adam Thielen, while he was getting the numbers, a lot of that was in garbage time, especially those first 2 weeks. Um, so it was kind of like, okay, we'll take away Adam Thielen, and then what are you guys gonna do? Well, you let Diggs walk, and he was disgruntled. So I get it, but he's been a big difference maker in Buffalo.
right. So we both are picking the Bills over the Raiders. Moving on to probably the most intriguing matchup of the week, you have the Patriots at the Chiefs. This is intriguing on so many different levels. You have the rainy, Patrick Mahomes versus Cam Newton now, but you have Bill Belichick versus Andy Reid.
Yeah.
And Andy Reid has kind of been a thorn in Bill Belichick's side the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, and with the way the Chiefs are playing, it's hard to bet against the Chiefs, especially at home. I love Bill Belichick as a coach. I'm still not a fan of that roster, but somehow that roster is 2-1. And I
Yeah.
just don't get it. Um, I'm not really sure what is going on.
I,
Um,
I think I think that's just a testament to him as a coach. Being able to do what he's done so far against teams with a roster that feels like a little patchwork, and kind of thrown together after they had so many losses in the offseason in terms of people leaving and what have you. So
yeah, and I'm looking at some team statistics here. I mean, you look at the Chiefs; they are sitting ranked fifth in total offensive yards so far through 3 games. And then you go to the defensive side. You have the Patriots, but they're underneath the Chiefs in yards
yeah,
allowed. So it's just I know Bill Belichick's a mastermind. He's going to come up with something intriguing to slow down Patrick Mahomes. And but I can't do it. I have to go with the Chiefs at home. I just
Yeah.
have to. It just I don't see it. The only there's there's two statistical categories where I think the Patriots have an edge, and that's rushing. Um, Actually, no, that's they're allowing 178 yards per game. Oh, no, that's offense. They're rushing for 178 yards per game,
Hmm.
and they are second in the league in turnover differential. Those are the only two things where they have an advantage on over the Chiefs. Now, if they can control the clock on offense and not get into a shootout, they may have a chance.
Right.
But if they get into a shootout with the Chiefs, this is not going to go well for them. And I think Cam Newton will finally be brought back down to earth. Um, I'm going to go Chiefs by 9 over the Patriots. What are your thoughts, Lone Wolf?
So I think Cam Newton, and part of this was the game plan, but I think they were he didn't play well against um, he didn't play well in week three. I don't think, and part of that was by design with the Raiders. I think they wanted to run the football more, like I was talking about when we talked about that game. But if it does come to a shootout, Cam is not the same guy he used to be, and he's not going to run all over this team, and he's not going to pass all over this team. He's going to accumulate some yards, but if it does end up in a shootout, right now there's really nobody better than Mahomes in that type of situation. I don't know. I mean, this year maybe Russell Wilson. It just depends on what your flavor is, I guess. I mean, either one, but really Mahomes has been masterful this season. I think that this is a Bill Belichick has done the greatest job that he has so far in terms of coaching. There may be one or two other years where you could say that, but this year he's really done a great job coaching with this roster. I agree with you. I don't believe in it. It seems hard to fathom that they're a winning team. But this week, I think the Chiefs get the better of them. They're a well-oiled machine. And Andy Reid, I think he's figured some things out. I mean, he's been on the other end of it with Bill Belichick in the past, so he's getting the better of Belichick now, and I think he does again in this game. The Chiefs have too many offensive weapons for the Patriots to stop, and I think they win by 14 in this game.
All right. And there you have it, everybody. There are our thoughts. Those are our two highlight games of the week. Um, so to wrap up the show, so we're finally getting back down to our regularly
A
scheduled
regular
time.
time, yeah.
Um, any besides the records, the of teams, what are
Yeah.
a couple of your biggest shocks that have happened or are occurring, and what are some of your disappointments that you see around the league so far?
I would say that I was surprised that Justin Herbert came in and played as well as he did right away, and I'm a little surprised because you and I talked about quarterbacks and they come in and are they going to be any good? And I was shocked that he came in against the Chiefs and he played as well as he did. Um, I really didn't think that that would be the case, and I was impressed by how I've been impressed by how he's played so far. I would say from a team standpoint, I'm a little surprised by the Rams. You and I both talked about that. I think they're playing a lot better than we expected, and I think that based on how they're playing right now, they unless they fall apart, they're going to contend for a playoff spot. So I'm been a little surprised by that. Um, Disappointments. I mean, we've talked about a lot of teams that are bad, and we don't need to wax on about them. We're not disappointed; they're just bad. So there's nothing disappointing about that. There's nothing surprising about those teams. Uh, Both of them are in New York, but there's other bad teams too. Um, but I would say that if you know if I didn't dislike this team from a fan standpoint, um, I would be very disappointed, and that's Minnesota. This is a team who, yes, they let people go in the off season, but they really should be better than they are, especially since I like the head coach. That to me, if I were a Vikings fan, I would be very disappointed in how things have gone so far.
All right. And I agree with you on the Rams and on the Vikings. Um, you know, a big shock for me is the Bears just finding a way to win. I know we talk about they're like the worst 3-0 team in the league,
Right.
but they're finding a way to win, and that's the whole name of the game. Find a way to win games. Um, so they're definitely a shock to me so far. The other shock, and again, this isn't a record shock, is how explosive the Packers offense actually is.
Yeah.
Um, we knew that they'd be good. To be honest, I didn't think they'd be sitting at 3-0. I thought the Saints would trip them up last week, when I looked at the initial schedule. But after the first 2 weeks, I was like, oh, okay. But especially this last week, you were without Devontae Adams. You didn't add a top-notch receiver. Now, this week will be a good test because Lazard is out. He
Is that
hurt.
confirmed? I saw he was injured. He had some type of core injury, but he's out for
Yep,
sure.
he
Okay.
got a core injury. Yeah, I think he had to have a minor procedure done, so he
Okay.
might be out for an extended period of time. So you might be down your top two receivers this week.
Well, and the Packers are on bye after the Falcons game, so they have some time to heal up after that.
Right. So if they can get through the fall game and be 4-0, they should be okay.
Right.
But it's just amazing how explosive, how many yards and points they are putting up per game right now. I did not expect it to be that dynamic at this juncture. Um, I just didn't.
No.
Um, you know, as for disappointment, I think the Eagles are a huge disappointment.
Yeah.
Not only are you 0-2-1 and you just tied the Bengals, you don't even look good. Carson Wentz isn't playing well. Your run game is abysmal. Your defense is sluggish. Um, and this is a team that is only 2 years removed from winning the Super Bowl.
Right.
You think about it, it feels like the Eagles winning the Super Bowl was like a decade ago by now.
It does feel that long ago. I mean, they just this is not the same team. I mean, granted, they're not all the same players. I get that, but absolutely doesn't feel the same at all.
But they were talking about that the Eagles had a good 5, 6 year run in them. Well, that didn't happen.
No.
So that's one of my biggest disappointments. Um, like I said, I agree with you with the Vikings.
Hmm.
I expected them to not be as good as people thought they would be. I did not expect them to be sitting at 0-3 right now, and their defense to be that bad. I thought their defense would be bad, but not this bad. Um, and then for my surprises, the Rams, like you said,
Hmm.
Goff was playing tremendous. Their defense is playing lights out. Almost not to the level of when they went to the Super Bowl, but they're back up there after having a down year last year. Yeah, and then the other, I guess, kind of surprise is I know you were higher on this team than I was. Um, is the play of Kyler Murray. I didn't, I know he struggled last week, but those first 2 weeks, it was lights out, and I did not expect him to be that good. Those first 2 weeks, and he's a young quarterback. You expect a clunker like last week to happen now and then. So this week will really be a good test for him to see if it was just a bad performance or if, he just played really well for 2 weeks and he's not at that level yet. So those are my surprises and disappointments. So far, and as we move forward, we'll do this again around the halfway point and give our thoughts and maybe readjust our divisional picks and our divisional winners
Right.
as we move forward, because unfortunately we're gonna have to pick a winner of the NFC East.
And you say it that way, and the best part about it is it's so true. I mean, the division is so bad that somebody actually does have to win it and come out of it. I don't know. I mean, it's almost going to be potentially a 7-9 team the way things are going. I just look at it and wonder. And maybe not. Maybe somebody will get lucky and they'll finish at 8-8. I don't know, but that's not really saying a whole lot. They're just a very bad division.
Right. All right. So, anything else, Lone Wolf, this week? Again, we're trying to stick within our hour and a half, and not go to our 2 hours
Right.
that we've been going. Um, just
No,
for
I think that covers it for us for this week. And I think we'll have more of the same next week. We'll take a look at the playoffs. Obviously, the NBA finals will be more along by then, and obviously the NHL will crown their champion. Baseball's the playoffs going on. We can get into the meat of that a little bit more, and then recap the last week in the NFL, and then look ahead to the next week when the buys actually start too. So
all right. And just before we go, everybody, just to let you know, the Broncos lead the Jets in the fourth quarter 27-25.
wow.
So this tells you kind of maybe how bad the Broncos are. But we
Hey,
have,
hold on to your hats because it's actually a competitive game.
right, and there is kind of a famous quarterback playing in this game. Or at least he's related to, and that's Brett Rippon. And I
Oh,
believe
yeah.
that is the son of Mark Rippon of the Washington Redskins. Um, and I'll tell you what, he's not having a bad night. 17-25, 204 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So if I'm right on that, I don't know if that's right. Let's just quick
Oh,
fact check
we'll find
myself
out.
here,
Yeah, right now. Yeah.
because that's the popular thing to do with everybody. Um, let's see here.
I don't think so.
No, it is not Mark Rippon's son. Mark Rippon's son, I believe, did play for the Broncos a couple years ago, though. He had a really great preseason, but then I know he ran into some like social media issue.
But he is the nephew of Mark Rippon.
That's it. There we go. Not the son, but the nephew. I said he's still related to him. So,
Yes. So there you
uh,
go.
oh, and I talk good about him, and then he just throws an interception.
Oh man, see, what are you doing, Coach? You give the guy a chance here.
So, um, all right, everybody, we could go on all night with this, but
Yeah,
we are not. So, thank you everybody for listening tonight, or if you're listening to this recorded. Have a great week. Enjoy the NFL games this weekend. If you're a fan of a team that's not very good, I apologize, but before you go and blame the players or this or that, look at the coach, look at the GM, look at the owner. That's usually
right,
the core of the problem right there. It starts from the top. The players just play the game. It's up to the coaches to put them in a position, and then the GM to give them coaches that know what in the world they're doing, which many teams don't. Many teams
right.
don't hire quality coaches. I don't care if it's the NFL. They just don't. So, uh, again, thanks everybody for listening. Have a great week, and we will talk to you next time.
Have a good night.